Let me start with a simple question, but maybe a complicated answer. How do you win? Senator Clinton has basically declared herself the nominee. The math is certainly very much in her favor. Explain to me how you're the nominee in July in your head.
Fair question. And I think we take there are three paths to victory. Number one, I want to go into the convention with more pledged delegates than Secretary Clinton. And that's going to be an uphill fight because we're 270 or so delegates down. We got 46% of the pledged delegates. What I want to do, and I think we can, is win California here and win it in a big vote, do very, very well in the other 5 states. And I believe going into the convention, if we can do this with a majority of pledged delegates, is a very symbolic victory. Second of all, we're going to talk to those superdelegates in states where we have won landslide victories, 60, 70, 80% of the vote, to say, do what the people in your state want. They voted for Bernie Sanders. You as a superdelegate should follow their wishes. Third point, and most important point, as you know, Chuck, there are over 400 superdelegates who came on to Secretary Clinton's campaign 8 months before the first ballot was cast, before anybody else was in the race, before they could get a sense of what the campaign was about. Right now, in every major poll, national poll and statewide poll, done in the last month, 6 weeks, we are defeating Trump, often by big numbers, and always at a larger margin than Secretary Clinton is. We're going to make the case to the superdelegates. Your job is to make sure that Trump is defeated, that Bernie Sanders, in fact, for a variety of reasons, not just polling, is the strongest candidate.
Well, Senator, in your answer there, you're basically contradicting yourself on the issue of superdelegates in this way. You're saying you want them to respect the vote in their states. Then at the same time you say, but oh, by the way, for those of you that are a superdelegate in a state that Clinton won, why don't you think about the general election? It's a little bit hypocritical to be on both sides of those issues.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there are over 400 superdelegates who made a decision to vote for Secretary Clinton before anyone else was in the race, before they got a sense of what the campaign was about. And all that I am saying is to those superdelegates who came on board before I was even in the race, you have got the very grave responsibility to make sure that Trump does not become elected president of the United States. Vote for the strongest candidate. And it's not just the polls, Chuck. If you look at the momentum and the energy and the enthusiasm of our grassroots campaign, it will result in a high voter turnout. And Democrats and progressives do well when the voter turnout is high. Republicans do well when the voter turnout is low. I think our message of income and wealth inequality, the fact that we're the only major country on earth not to have health care for all people, is resonating. It will win the general election.
Is it fair to say then, if you don't win California, you believe your campaign is over?
No, that's what you said. I didn't say. What I said is obviously California is very, very important. 475 superdelegates. Obviously, if we don't do well in California, it will make our path much, much harder. No question about it. But I think we have a good chance to win in California, maybe win big, and maybe win 4 or 5 of the other states that are up on June 7th.
But without a California victory, you can't win a majority of pledged delegates, and obviously you will once again not succeed in a big state with a diverse population. It's going to be hard for you to convince Democrats to go with you without a California victory. Fair?
Hey, look, Chuck, California is the big enchilada, so to speak. Obviously, it is enormously important, and obviously we want to win it. But let me just tell you something. You know, my campaign has been written off from before we started. Nobody thought we would do anything. We've now won 20 states, primaries and caucuses, and I think by the end of the process, we may win half of the states. Yeah. You know, we're going to fight till the last vote is cast and the last, try to appeal to the last delegate that we had.
Last week with me, Secretary Clinton said when it comes to party unity, she's doing her part, she's going to do her part, but that there is a responsibility that falls on you as well. If she's the nominee, that you have a responsibility to do what it takes to bring your supporters on board with her. Do you accept that responsibility?
Well, the responsibility that I accept in a very, very serious way is to do everything that I can to make sure that Donald Trump will not become elected president of the United States. Donald Trump, for a dozen different reasons, would be a disaster as president. I will do everything that I can to make sure that does not happen. But at the end of the day, whether it's Secretary Clinton or Bernie Sanders or Donald Trump or anybody else, the way you gain support is through the candidate himself or herself. So my job is to make sure that Trump does not become president, and I will do that. But it is if Secretary Clinton is the nominee, it is her job to reach out to millions of people and make the case as to why she is going to defend working families and the middle class, provide health care to all people, take on Wall Street, deal aggressively with climate change. That is the candidate's job to do.
I understand that, but you just said you want to do whatever it takes to stop him. You don't believe you need to be out there telling your supporters you may not be happy with Hillary Clinton, but she's better than him.
Well, no question about that. No question about that. But where my mind is right now is to do everything that I can in the remaining caucuses and primaries to try to win them and make the case. But if your question is, do I think that Secretary Clinton is significantly better candidate for America than is Donald Trump, that is not a debate. Of course that is true.
Do you think Hillary Clinton needs a clean bill of health from the FBI before she accepts the Democratic nomination?
Well, I have said many, many times that I'm trying to run a campaign based on the needs of the American people, and that is raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour, paid family and medical leave, making public colleges and universities tuition-free. Those are the issues, by the way, that the American people are deeply concerned about. But so I have not gotten into the email situation at all. There is a process unfolding. There's an investigation that is going on. It will play out, and we'll see what happens.
I understand that, but do you think for the Democratic Party and for superdelegates, do you think it's important for them to find out what the FBI is going to do before the vote in Philadelphia?
Well, that's not the decision of superdelegates or anybody else. That's the decision of the FBI. I have no idea when they are going to make their report public or come up with their conclusions. But do I think that whenever that happens, if it happens, that will be an issue that Donald Trump and the Republicans will seize on? I think there is little doubt about that.
You know, you told the Wall Street Journal in November that if Clinton's email practices foiled public records requests or compromised classified information, that those were valid questions. Well, the State Department IG report said just that. What was your reaction to that report, and does that trouble you? Does that add to your list of issues that you believe she has a judgment problem with?
Well, again, you know, these are areas that I have stayed away from. There is a process. People will draw their conclusions from the Inspector General report. But again, you know, I think the American people are tired of that type of politics. And I think the media and the candidates have got to talk about why the middle class is in decline and why we have massive levels of income and wealth inequality. Those issues are more important to the American people than some of the issues you have been talking about. And those are the issues that I focus on. I just gave an hour speech right here in Santa Barbara. It wasn't about emails. It was about the future of the American middle class and how we deal with the fundamental problems that they are facing.
Do you think it's, do you have a problem when some of your supporters are quoted in the New York Times saying they're sort of rooting for an FBI indictment when it comes to Clinton? Do you tell your supporters not to talk that way?
You know, the New York Times, I'll tell you, I have a real problem with the New York Times, which from day one has been trying to be dismissive of our campaign and be very negative about our campaign. You can go out and you can talk to millions of people and you get any, you know, response that you want. We are going to defeat, our campaign is about defeating Secretary Clinton on the real issues. You know, I want to break up the Wall Street bank. She doesn't. I want to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. She wants $12 an hour. I voted against the war in Iraq. She voted for the war in Iraq. I believe we should ban fracking. She does not. I believe we should have a tax on carbon and deal aggressively with climate change. That is not her position. Those are some of the issues that I am campaigning on. That the New York Times goes around and they talk to a handful of people and do a front page story, that's a problem for the New York Times, not for my campaign.
All right, I want to ask you a little bit about the platform and the Democratic Party issues platform that's coming up. A couple of your appointees, when it comes to the issue of Israel, including Cornell West. He believes, refers to the Palestinians as the plight of an occupied people. Do you agree with his characterization?
What I believe is that the United States has got to be playing on a level playing field in dealing with Israel and the Palestinian people. I am 100% pro-Israel in the sense of Israel's right to exist. I lived in Israel. I have families in Israel. Israel has the right to live not only in peace and security, but to know that their very existence will be protected by the United States government. On the other hand, I think if we're looking at lasting peace in the Middle East, the United States has got to respect the needs of the Palestinian people. They cannot be pushed aside. So that is my view. And, other people can say whatever they want. That is my view.
What do you want the platform to say? Do you want to refer to the Palestinians as an occupied people? Do you want to say that Israel is occupying Gaza and the West Bank?
We're a little bit early about worrying about the wording of what the Democratic platform will be. We've got some good people on our platform writing committee. But I think that at the end of the day, there will be a general recognition by the entire Democratic convention that, of course, Israel's right to exist in peace and security is not in debate. But on the other hand, the Palestinian people's needs must also be respected. I have the feeling that while the media wants to make this into a great conflict, I think there's going to be broad consensus within the Democratic convention on that issue.
Fair enough. Final question. On Friday, you warned Secretary Clinton that she'd better, if she ends up the nominee, that her running mate essentially better not be a conservative or moderate type of Democrat if she wants to win over your supporters and certainly have your enthusiastic support. Do you consider someone like Tim Kaine falling into that category, the Virginia senator, as that he's too conservative or moderate to be on the Democratic ticket?
Again, Chuck, I know I don't want to shock you, but I think we are once again into a little bit of speculation. I've known Tim Kaine for years. I really like him very much. My point was, and let me repeat it, that for Democrats to win, they're going to have to address the needs of working people. They're going to have to address the needs of the middle class. And that means standing up to Wall Street, standing up to the greed of corporate America, even now and then standing up to the media. And that means having a candidate who can excite working families, excite young people, bring them into the political process, create a large voter turnout. And when we do that, we're going to win the election. So I would hope, if I am not the nominee, that the vice presidential candidate will not be from Wall Street, will be somebody who has a history of standing up and fighting for working families, taking on the drug companies whose greed is doing so much harm, taking on Wall Street, taking on corporate America, and fight for a government that works for all of us, not just the 1%.
Would you take the call if Hillary Clinton asked you to be her running mate?
Well, right now, again, here we are in California. I'm knocking my brains out to win the Democratic nomination. That's where I am right now. What happens afterwards, we'll see. But right now, my focus is on winning the nomination.
That was a very political type of answer that says you're not answering the question. Fair enough. You're not ruling it out.
Well, what I am saying right now is our focus is on winning the Democratic nomination.
All right, Senator Bernie Sanders from Santa Barbara, California. Thanks for coming on. Stay safe on the trail, sir.
Thank you very much.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.